Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
There's the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
But I'm for real. The walls are closing in on Hunter Biden, Steph.
How did I know you were going to say that this morning?
John, it's true. This is it. I'm pretty sure.
Today's the day.
This is it. This is it. We do have, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, some stunning new information. This relates to the phone call, apparently, allegedly, that Hunter Biden, he's talking with a Chinese business leader and says, hey, I'm in effect sitting here with the big guy now. Don't screw with me. There's some stunning new allegations and developments as it relates to that phone call. We want to get into that, but first I want to start here. I get a little scared when I hear things like diesel spill, especially when it happens where I live here in mid-Missouri, and this apparently happened in Cole County. John, do I have reason to fear here?
I don't know. Unless you go camp out on the Lincoln University farm, I think you're safe.
So what happened?
Apparently, Cole County Public Works is confirming that a leak of a diesel fuel on their property went into a creek on the Lincoln University farm that's out south of Jefferson City. And they said the staff over there smelled the smell of diesel and saw a sheen on the water of this little creek. Turned out it came from the Cole County Public Works property across the road. So Department of Natural Resources has been called in to clean it up.
So that's kind of like Highway 50 there, Highway 54, kind of in that area through there. You got the farm on one side of the highway, and then Cole County. So it was Cole County Public Works diesel?
Yep, that's what they said it was. They admitted to it. It was leaking from their tank and went across over to the creek there, which, unfortunately is not that rare occurrence where we see leaks from, ag tanks and all like that. It happens.
I know Cole County Public Works, Eric Landwehr was saying, hey, this is exactly what we trained for. And I think he'd even said last night on ABC 17, it was kind of like, we do this training, and a lot of times, because I've been in jobs where you got to do training for, like when I was a ski guide and a zip line guide, you train for all these things and they never ever happen. And Mr. Landwehr is saying this is exactly what we trained for. Glad it's going to be okay.
And the other thing to keep in mind is if there's a location, John knows this, at Branden, that's going to happen. Never a good place, but the DNR headquarters is not that far. I mean, literally, it's not far away at all. So their staff, theoretically, you could probably walk to that location, but not that far, and they were right on top of it as well. Lincoln University actually is the one that noticed the leak. They did and deserve a lot of credit for that, but they're getting it taken care of.
Let me ask anybody this. Was the last time we talked about Department of Natural Resources, was it when they had to come in and remove the homeless camp in Columbia? Was that the last time the Department of Natural, because they got involved? That's the reason that camp got, because DNR was like, hey, you got to scoot, man.
And they had received complaints from the public, et cetera. I report on them periodically. I mean, they have a wide range of jurisdiction. I reported them a lot more when I worked in Carrollton because of corporate hog farming. They were involved in that, but they're involved in a number of other things.
But that was the last time I think we talked about them in the news.
And unfortunately,
yes.
They can't walk to the homeless camp because we've been getting lots of reports that they're basically just back.
They're back, and it's in Columbia. So like 63, you get north of I-70 and before the next exit, Home Depot and all that. They're calling it the homeless depot now because you go up 63, you're heading north, and that right-hand side kind of across from Bass Pro Shops, and you can see like the city of Columbia, who, by the way, then I guess had lunch delivered that day. I wonder if they fed everybody or just the city employees eating food in front of all these homeless people. They had to build a road to get into there, and I shouldn't say build a road, but they had to clear a road just to get in there, and apparently they're all heading back. Welcome into the show. That is, of course, Brian Houseworth there.
It's good to see you.
I've introduced you to my buddy John. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden. Something we can do for you this morning. You can reach out and text us 874-9390. Some big news yesterday, I think. I don't know. One of the issues with this whole Hunter Biden thing, but I'll go back to, didn't National Enquirer win an award for their, was John Edwards? They did an expose. Apparently he had a love child. Nobody believed the National Enquirer because it was the National Enquirer. And it turns out it was all true.
It deserved credit.
That's right.
And if Kerry and him had won Ohio, he would have been the vice president of the United States.
That's right.
About 200,000 votes.
And then a couple of years ago, New York Post with Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, it's the New York Post. There's nothing there. We know it was all true, and it was all a lie what we were being told. So,
in defense of the National Enquirer story, they did report that the baby mama was actually a Martian.
well, there was that. So Fox News, obviously, really the only one on this. Other news outlets, national news outlets, starting to pick up a little bit on this Hunter Biden stuff, but only after you've got several IRS whistleblowers that have been giving TV interviews that have testified in Washington, D.C. Now, all of a sudden, Fox has been on this, obviously, for a long time because they feed us the red meat. That's what we want. That's why we go there. Other news outlets, they're picking up on it, but I think a lot of folks have been pretty dismissive of the story because it is Fox. And Fox, especially on Fox and Friends in the mornings, we watch our bank of monitors several times. They have pressed people like Mr. Comer from Kentucky and said, hey, listen, you keep talking about this. You gotta show us something. So we all remember the allegations that apparently Joe Biden was sitting there with Hunter Biden. He's trying to shake down some Chinese business leader. He says, I'm here with the big guy right now, and $5 million for the big guy, $5 million for me, and he's sitting here with my father. And they're saying, no, that never happened. That phone call allegedly took place July 30th of 2017. 2017, July 30th. Now, apparently, and I'll show these if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Mo, on YouTube or on Facebook. Apparently, there's photographs of Hunter at his dad's house.
With the hookers.
With a couple of hookers in a really nice Corvette. They took out the classified documents, took those out of the car. He put the hookers in the car with him.
Wait, is that photoshopped or is it just the photo in the background bleeding through?
It's bleeding through.
Bleeding through, yeah.
Here, put this on the back.
So, is what happened.
Gotta up your influencer game here, Rathert.
That's right. I'm trying to be on
there
camera.
We
there
go.
we go. So, that photo was taken July 30th, 2017. So we do know this. We do know that Hunter was at his dad's house that day when that phone call allegedly in which Hunter Biden said, the big guy and this, I'm sitting here with my father. Joe is saying, I have never had anything to do with my kids' business dealings. What's even more entertaining about this story, so it's placing Hunter at his dad's house on the day of that phone call. But what's funny is the Corvette is he's not driving the Corvette. He's just sitting in it. like he went to
going through the documents.
Yeah. I can envision this conversation. Because I've done this when I was a kid, but Hunter Biden is 52 years old. He's as old as I am. I've never as an adult gone, hey Dad, can I use your car and take these hookers out for a ride? I've never had to do that.
And at least when you borrowed the car for prom, he gave you the keys so you could drive it, right?
So Joe Biden said to Hunter, well, I'm not going to give you the keys, but if you and your friends would like to go sit in the car, I'll get my camera and I'll take some pictures of y'all. So here's a grown-ass man. His dad won't let him drive the car, but I'll take pictures of you and your hooker.
How old is Hunter Biden?
He is 52, so when that picture would have happened, he would have been 40, whatever 52 minus 6
I wouldn't let him drive my vet either.
Man, no. So that's pretty interesting. Photo taken on the same day. He was at his dad's house, allegedly the same day of that phone call yesterday. McCarthy on with Sean Hannity, who's here today, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
We would know none of this if Republicans had not taken the majority. We've only followed where the information has taken us. Hannity, this is rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information. Impeachment,
which is becoming... Is it becoming old hat anymore?
It's not. It's just, yeah. I think it's becoming overused.
Yeah, it's funny because in that same breath, these politicians are talking about weaponization of the Fed. We're going to call them to testify before a House Judiciary Committee to talk about weaponizing committees and the FBI. We're weaponizing our very power to talk about weaponizing what it is you do. As a matter of fact, Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security Director Alejandro Mayorkas, who swears the border is secure while more and more mid-Missourians die of fentanyl overdoses. He's testifying tomorrow. Rob Law, former chief of policy at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, is talking about this. He's here this morning, 7:10. Arps is here at 6:35 this morning.
I was going to say, impeachment, the threat of it is kind of starting to become I don't like this person, so they automatically need to be impeached.
Yeah, and there is that. But I think what's different about this, if the walls are to really be closing in, John, if all of this stuff would certainly seem, and people talk about, the former president, he used the P word and all. Well, this guy allegedly was taking money from China.
When's the interview thing with the Devin Archer guy? That's coming up
that's
here.
Coming up this week. Devin Archer, he was a friend of Hunter Biden, who also sat on that Burisma board. He's going to be testifying this week. There's a lot of impactful things, I think, coming out this week. And I know if you tune in every morning to Wake Up Mid-Missouri here about this time, I get it sometimes. Oh, you just dump on Joe Biden every morning. That's not our intent. These things that are happening, they're important. They're affecting all of us. You have a president of the United States who's accused of doing some pretty dark things that threatens the security of everybody. A former president using the P word, who cares? You have a president who is accused of taking money from our enemies to wield influence.
Well, and typically it's the lies or the cover-up that takes people down. And so that's why, John, you brought up the Devin Archer testimony, but I think he's expected to testify that, Joe was actually on the phone, not just, they weren't just at the same location, but he was on the phone. And he said, how many times has he said, I had nothing to do with that. I didn't talk to Hunter at all. So if his testimony is believable, or if for some reason there's more evidence to back that up and Joe's caught in a lie, I did get the feeling where I was like, okay, Branden might be right here, because
the walls are closing in.
Then I think it rises to a new level.
Yeah. Coming up a little bit later this morning, so we told you Arps is going to be here. There is now and I'm sure there's a couple dotted across Missouri and kind of the rural outlying areas, but there is a conservative school board in the St. Louis area. How's that been working out? We know the challenges of education, especially locally. We follow what's happened in the Columbia Public School District over the past 7 years. You know how important these school boards, and I would venture to say school boards more important than President of the United States. That has direct implications on you and your kids and your grandkids. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about with Christopher Arps, and of course 710, Rob Law, former chief of policy at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, previewing that hearing tomorrow with Alejandro Mayorkas. Meanwhile, get ready for the daily D.C. rundown.
Well, Trump is not only ahead in the polls, but he's also got this advantage against the rest of the candidates in the field.
What's the other advantage that he has? Stephanie has it. Coming up.
I expect to be there. We're working hard to make sure we're on that debate stage.
All right, it's Asa Hutchinson. He is not the front runner for president of the United States. You know who I just thought of this. You know who I'd love to see debating before we get into Stephanie Bell's daily D.C. rundown?
Who?
Mike Pence versus Asa Hutchinson.
Oh, my gosh.
What do you think, Marsh?
Only if I ate a gummy first, maybe.
Oh, and then throw into the mix Doug Burgum from North Dakota.
I don't know. I think Doug Burgum could have those guys beat.
He might. All right, let's do it, man. Let's get into today's daily DC rundown with Stephanie Bell.
All right. Well, and somebody has said this to me, and I don't know who I should attribute this to, but they say, you get into politics, the one big rule isn't like how good looking you are, like whatever. It's, do you know how to count? And you think about people like Kevin McCarthy and people in the legislature. I mean, that's the number one rule. Do you have the votes? Can you put together a coalition to push your agenda forward? And Donald Trump is now playing this game. Before, he didn't really know the rules and all of that, but now his sole focus is, do you know how to count? So not only is he, and what are the rules at play here? So we know he's up in the polls, but he has this other distinct advantage in that in the last cycle, a lot of, and so when you're picking a candidate in the primary, a lot of state parties went back and changed their rules. They did so in two ways. One, they gave advantages to to the front runner, like winner take all contests. So if you're up and you're in the lead, you take all the delegates. It's not apportioned.
So if you got 75% of the vote and your opponent got 25%, you don't get 75% of the delegate. You get them all because you won the whole thing.
Correct. So obviously that helps a front runner. The other thing is, even in cases where they might apportion, you have to have a higher threshold to get any delegates. So both of those lean towards Trump. Trump's been talking to state party chairs. He has relationships already with these people and is really focused on, can I get the number that I need? Whereas everyone else is out there just trying to get popular support. He's like, he knows the numbers, he knows what he needs to get the nom, and he's really focused on that. So he has huge advantages there.
And I will say this, it seems like Trump, and he even said in that interview, I think it was with Brett Baer on Fox, he said, yeah, I wished I wouldn't have been so acerbic last time I was in the White House. And he does seem to be on a lot of things, kind of towing that line to an extent.
All right, we'll see how long that lasts. Also, Ramaswamy is making news. He's slated to headline a GOP fundraiser first in the South primary state, South Carolina. That's also interesting because, you think about being in Boone County. If we had someone from Missouri that was running for president, you think we'd pick them for our headliner because, of course, Nikki Haley and Tim Scott are from South Carolina. Still, Ramaswamy is going to headline this county level event, and that is coming up quite quickly, August 19th.
Well, that's pretty interesting, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is really making waves. I've seen since his kind of bigger debut in Iowa at the event, 2 weeks ago, I really have seen a lot of chatter about him and excitement.
I've liked him since the day you introduced me to him. He was here on the show. I love everything about this guy.
People are saying maybe it's not just a cabinet position. Maybe it's a VP spot.
As a matter of fact, Hannah told us the other day, Gary Nolan's show last week did a flash poll. Who's your number 2 choice for president? Who's not your pick for VP? Who's not your choice for president? Who's your number 2 choice? Winner?
Overwhelmingly, it was Ramaswamy.
I am not surprised by that. Also, Biden is set to sign and declare an Emmett Till Family National Monument. I believe that is happening today. Of course, Emmett Till was the black teenager from Chicago who helped propel the civil rights movement. The actual monument is located across 3 sites in 2 states, and these will be federally protected places.
And that's your daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. We do it every morning here at 6:25. Coming up a few minutes from now. So whenever that government pandemic started back in 2020, we realized the importance and we learned the more local do a big event. It was pictures you and I hanging out at the car show and Stephanie working.
Why are you deleting those pictures?
Per usual.
Because I've seen them enough times, and it was a year ago. Welcome in.
Okay.
Welcome in. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. My name is Branden Rathert. It is nice to meet you. That is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Please.
He has to delete the pictures because his phone is like 10 years old. It only holds about 10 photos at a time.
Is it a flip phone?
It's not. My dad had a flip phone for 15 years. 2 years ago, finally got like a smartphone, and it's been fascinating to watch my 73-year-old father try to figure this out. My phone is 7 years old, and it's almost a point of pride for me now that I will not get a new phone. I probably should. So, yeah, I constantly got to clear out space and make sure everything is cleaned up. I don't know why I'm doing that. Seven years I've had this phone. If you've had one longer, you let me know. But that's a Droid. Samsung Droid, 8 years, no problems. Welcome into it. There's John Marsh.
Good morning.
Mr. Hausworth is here. Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com, hanging out with us. Glad you could be here. I want to start here. And we learned,
Sure.
even prior to 2020, our Boone County clerk, Brianna Lennon, even quoted me on this. The more localer, the more importanter. Talking about elections. We talk about the presidential election, U.S. Senate election, which is important, but the more localer you get, your mayor, your city council, your school board, these are the things that really matter. And the folks, especially in Columbia, know this. Parents in the Columbia Public School District know this. And parents, actually, with the exception of Columbia, most of the school boards here in mid-Missouri, they're good. So they people understand the differences between the two. But in the St. Louis area, school board, in kind of an uppity area, I might say, and if I'm wrong, correct me. They've been conservative for a while now. How is that working out within the confines of a school?
Look, Francis House School District is in St. Charles County, which is a key Republican county in Missouri. I think it's one of the largest, if not the largest. And so it shouldn't surprise folks that a conservative county now has a school district with a conservative school board. And what, of course, we know really highlighted and spearheaded these school board movements around the country was when during COVID, parents found out what their kids were being taught. And so that has created a groundswell of grassroots activists wanting to run for their local school boards. We've seen it all around the country where they have won, and that's a good thing. Look, these school districts need to be focused on writing and arithmetic, not CRT and all the other nonsense that they're teaching now, and parents are fed up and are taking their school districts back.
And I love seeing this. Matter of fact, there's a local dude named John Potter, and this guy is just kind of a very humble truck driver for a living, wears a ball cap, and this guy, when the government pandemic started in 2020, started seeing what was happening with his kids at school, and now this guy, he started with a Facebook page, started doing presentations, ran for a school board. Now he's in Jefferson City, and one of the things he does now is he helps guide parents where to go when they're trying to find information as it relates to education. So we've seen what it's done there for him. Our guest, Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. You see him on Newsmax TV all the time, too. He's hanging out with us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Chris, KMOV in St. Louis reporting the former New Life Evangelistic Center, the kind of questionable downtown homeless shelters wanting to reopen and all. Jefferson City had challenges with the Reverend Larry Rice a number of times over the years and having some challenges with some homeless folks in downtown Jefferson City. Is there a solution out there to this?
Well, there's got to be some type of solution because, where our radio station is downtown, we're by the St. Patrick's Homeless Center. And there have been so many crimes that have happened near that area. There's a park there. I don't know if you remember a few months ago when this homeless man was executed by another homeless gentleman in broad daylight, and somebody filmed that. That was around that St. Patrick's Day Center. Look, Larry Rice has been a staple here in St. Louis and in Jeff City trying to help out the homeless. I think that his heart is in the right place. Unfortunately, his New Life Evangelistic Center becomes a nuisance to the residents that are around those centers, and that's why they wanted it shut down. If he can run a shelter where people are not hanging out all night around it and it's causing a nuisance to the neighbors, then he should be able to open a shelter. We're having a huge homeless problem here where people are sleeping in the parks downtown. They're sleeping under bridges. Something needs to be done. I don't know if New Life Evangelistic Center opening back up is necessarily the solution.
Well, and we saw I think it was, almost 2 weeks ago, officials in Jefferson City cleared a homeless encampment from near the river. Obviously, we followed the problems in Columbia, and this is something that affects people because, like in Columbia, the homeless people, they hang out downtown. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them cause problems for business owners, the very people that are helping to make the local economy go. And here's what I get frustrated by. Well, you're heartless. I've done a lot of volunteer work for homelessness over the years. I've done a documentary on homelessness, and I take exception when people say, well, you're heartless and you're cruel because you don't want to help the homeless. That's BS. It's wrong, and they don't get it. It's the problems that not all homeless people cause, but that a lot of them cause. And sometimes the bigger problem is the government solution to helping people that really don't want help with homelessness. Chris Arps. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Brandon, as you know, since you've dealt with this issue, a lot of these folks are homeless by choice. They don't want to live in shelters. They don't want the structure of that. They enjoy that life of living out on the streets with other people. They become kind of a family. So some of these people that are unhoused, as they call them now, they're unhoused by choice. You know, that's the term now.
Yeah, unhoused and unpregnant. It's crazy. All these silly words that these Democrats and uber liberals try to put on these things to soften them up. It just blows me away. Chris Farps, ChrisFarps.com hanging.
I listened to a podcast recently and they talked about unhoused. And if you're unhoused, can you be underhoused? And then can you be overhoused?
Good point.
I don't know. I think maybe Hunter Biden has been overhoused. Anyway, we talked to Scott Fawn yesterday about Andrew Koenig announcing for state treasurer. He's from your neck of the woods. What do you know about him, and what are your thoughts on him getting in the race?
You know, we had him on our radio show yesterday. Senator Andrew Koenig is very respected in the State House. He's very conservative. He is very pro-life. He's made that one of his issues. But he bridges the gap between the so-called establishment Republicans in the legislature and the more Republican, more conservative members. He bridges that gap. I think he's going to be a strong candidate. He joins the race with Cody. I can't think of his last name. He's a budget chair. He joins the race. And, of course, Vivek Malik is the current appointed treasurer. So we're going to have a three-man race. We're going to have three-man races and a lot of our other statewide races. So it's going to be very competitive. But Andrew Koenig is a good man, a good senator.
And it's funny because you were just trying to think of that Cody dude. The first name that came to mind. Oh, yeah. The head, Cody Bellinger. It's not Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger is the dude who plays for the Cubs, John, who kicked our tail ends over the weekend. It's not Cody Smith. Cody Smith. It's not Cody Bellinger. Chris Arps.
Budget chair.
I want to ask you this. We'll take a break, and I want to bring you back for some things. But I'm wondering about these other Republicans getting into the race for treasurer. Now, I get it. A lot of people, I could go onto the streets right now of Centralia and ask 10 people, who is our state treasurer? I bet I think 2 out of 10 people might be able to name the state treasurer. And that's not an indictment on the person holding the office.
It's an indictment on our Constitution for not giving the treasurer that many exciting duties.
Exactly. It's just treasurer. But I'm wondering, why are these other Republicans getting into the race again? Vivek Malik, of course, he was appointed. And I will say this, too. I don't know if folks know this. Whenever Vivek became treasurer, and I liked the guy a lot, met him before he became treasurer, liked him then. But working in his office now is a very high-profile personality who used to work for U.S. Senator Josh Hawley's office. And this is a guy that I really respect. I mean, I know this guy. He is sharp. And so when Vivek Malik's office brought this guy in, I'm thinking there's something out. This is a launch pad for something else. But I'm wondering why these other Republicans getting in the race, by all means, against somebody who's a very popular treasurer right now.
Mm-hmm. You want that answer now or after the break?
Let's do it now.
I think, first of all, Vivek Malik was appointed to that spot. He didn't win it outright. Okay. So no one is entitled to an office, and I think that's why he has got two more challengers. Also, Vivek Malik is not a politician. The other two gentlemen are seasoned politicians, and so I think that gives them a leg up on running for this office over Vivek Malik, who I like personally. I've seen at many of the local Republican events and statewide events. He's not the most exciting candidate out there. I'm not trying to poo-poo his race. So I think a lot of people saw that as an opening.
Yeah, and I think the dude, he's got some chops. Christopher Arps hanging out with us. Coming up 5 minutes from now.
This is the favorable ratings for Scott, Trump, and DeSantis. Look who has the highest favorable rating amongst this group.
So Trump, DeSantis, and Tim Scott, South Carolina. They did not who do you want for president. Who has the best likability score? You want to venture a guess as to who won that race, Chris?
Oh, wow. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Tim Scott?
I'm going
Who has the highest favorable rating amongst this group?
Who is it? By the way, and we're going to find out here. Chris Arps hanging out with us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. If you're watching, this is another reason you should be watching the show.
I don't really know what happened. But Branden was all tangled up in something.
He's still tangled. Oh, he got it.
I'm talking off air with our guest, Christopher Arps.
It's like when you used to before AirPods, when you had your phone, like your headphones in, and you got in the car and it got all tangled up with your seatbelt. That's kind of what you look like.
Yeah, so we're coming back from commercial break. The bumper music is playing, and I'm looking at Branden waiting for him to put his headphones on and, be ready to host a morning show.
And I'm trying to be on the phone and
he's still thumping around in there.
I got
You good?
it. I'm good.
You ready to start?
That's why you should be watching.
Well, as you were trying to untangle it, you just progressively got more panicked as the music kept playing.
And it's like one of those curly Q coily phone things, so it was just really messy.
You didn't hit your head in the phone you didn't hit yourself in the head with your headphones like you did once before, did you?
Not today.
That is classic.
He didn't take any preachers out in the process either, so it's good.
Top 2 favorite Rathert bloopers caught on camera.
I'm like Fergie. I'm clumsy. Top 40 reference. Kids, anybody get that? A song, big hit song by Fergie called Clumsy. All right. Let's start over. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's the producer, Hannah.
Hello.
There's Marsh.
Yep.
I'm Branden. Arps is here. ChristopherArps.com. When are you on Newsmax next?
I am on Thursdays, 5:36 and 7.
5:36
Newsmax TV.
7. Can you take us behind? And I don't know if I want to spoil the magic. Are those all live hits, or do they record like your first one and replay them? Or should we even talk about that?
No, they're live, buddy. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning doing that with my suit jacket on, tie and shirt, and my pajama bottoms. Yes.
But you've also got like a sweet green screen going where you got like the arch in the background and stuff, because you travel a lot, so you can do it from anywhere, right?
I do, but I try not to because, when you're in a hotel, the Wi-Fi may not be that good, internet, so you don't want to be on national TV looking janky.
All right, let's go back to CNN's Harry Enton. He is their polling expert, and actually I enjoy the work of Harry Enton on CNN. Polls, for what they are worth, a month out from the debate, still well over a year out from the primaries. But this is CNN's Harry Enton talking about likability.
This is the favorable ratings for Scott, Trump, and DeSantis. Look who has the highest favorable rating amongst this group. It's Tim Scott at 89%. That's higher than Donald Trump's 82% and Ron DeSantis' 81%.
Trump has a higher favorability rating than DeSantis. And that's why I always say polls for what they are worth. And it's a favorability rating. And that's an easy, I agree. That would have been my guess. An easy one for Tim Scott.
I heard someone call him Mr. Congeniality. I thought that was good.
Arps, you agree with the assessment? Tim Scott being having high favorability, and does that even matter in a presidential race?
I do, and the polling is saying that as well. We had Robert Cahaley, the pollster from Trafalgar Group, on the show.
The bow tie guy.
A couple weeks ago. Yes, the bow tie guy. And he said that Tim Scott is polling as everyone's second choice behind Donald Trump. So he's doing very well. He has a ton of money in the bank. But, as I mentioned this on my show yesterday, look out for the long knives that are going to start coming out against Tim Scott. Some Oppo research has come out. They've dug up some old quotes of his from 30 years ago where he said that the Republican Party was racist. They've dug up some Oppo research that he secured a pardon for one of his cousins from Donald Trump on Donald Trump's way out. So he's starting to look like a threat now. He's got the money. He's rising in the polls. So start looking at people starting to try to take him down a peg or two.
All right, Christopher Arps, ChrisArps.com. Check out his website. As a matter of fact, some cool things. One of the things you'll find on his website right now, St. Louis County's sex tape scandal. This is a story that involves. Listen, you talk politics and sex tapes. How can you go wrong? It's not even clickbait. It's a legit good story. You'll find that right now. ChristopherArps.com. We appreciate you. We'll catch up with you next time. And tell your lovely wife, Becky, we said hello.
I will. She's listening. She's in New York for the next couple of weeks, so I'm a bachelor.
Oh, very good. we have managed it effectively. But then almost in the same breath,
immigration reform legislation that we had hoped Congress would act on swiftly. They haven't.
So now he says the border is secure.
Yet he's still pointing the finger.
I don't understand this. Let me bring in Rob Law, former chief of policy at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Rob, welcome to the show. Which is it? Who's responsible here, man?
Oh, good morning. Good to be with you. And it's clear that this is a problem that is intentionally developed by Secretary Mayorkas and the entire Biden administration. They inherited the most secure southern border in our nation's history, and they have methodically and irrationally gone about destroying every single mechanism that would have actually secured the border. And then to come out and say that they've got it under control, they don't. And everything that they're doing is an abuse of other immigration authorities trying to hide the border crisis.
Maybe out of your scope of expertise, but why are these Democrats, why are people like Mayorkas and Kamala Harris, who's done nothing at the border, and the president even, they're number one, they are lying to us. They're lying to the American people. And number two, they're like, we just want to let these people in carte blanche. And I get the human aspect of it. However, there's a more realistic aspect, and that is the actual problems and what happens when we allow this to happen. Why are they doing this? Why not just be honest and say, no, we just want to let everybody in?
Yeah. I mean, that really is just such a mind-numbing question as to why are they doing this? Because it's not by accident. It is intentional. And it just certainly seems to be that this administration does not believe in the sovereignty of the United States. They don't believe in the greatness of this country. And so they are erasing the southern border and allowing anybody who wants to be here to show up. They seem to care more about the world's poor than America's poor. And Americans are going to continue to be left behind in this economy where they're already struggling due to all the other failed policies of this administration. But it definitely seems that the American people do not have a say when it comes to the immigration policy of this administration.
Rob Law, former chief of policy, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I also want to introduce you to Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Brian Hausworth is here. There's John Marsh. I am
Good morning.
Branden Rathert. So there is a hearing tomorrow with Alejandro Mayorkas. All right, he's going to be there in front of this committee. What do we expect will happen?
Well, Mayorkas is an absolute expert at running out the clock of all of the time allotted for questions during these types of hearings. And in the past, he's shown an arrogance and a brazenness to even basically perjure himself, lying before Congress that he has operational control of the border. So I think you'll hear more of the same. He will say that the new policies in place since Title 42 went away are working. A buzz phrase that he uses a lot is that they are taking it to the cartels in unprecedented ways, which is just absolutely laughable. The cartels have never been stronger, they've never been wealthier, and they've never been more emboldened to take further action. The cartels actually have control of our southern border. Mayorkas knows it, and the open border policies that he is ushering in is probably the best thing that has ever happened to the cartels.
All right, our guest, Rob Law, former chief of policy at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, hanging out with this morning. This ahead of a hearing tomorrow. House Judiciary Committee holding a hearing tomorrow. This is going to be going right as the Gary Nolan Show comes on air tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Going to be interesting.
What do you think about this issue being forefront for 2024? It seems like, obviously a lot of folks are concerned about the economy, obviously. And also, I think Democrats are going to try to push abortion. For folks who are really concerned on this issue, how do we keep this issue at the top?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that the immigration border security issue was such a winner in 2015, 2016 for then candidate Trump. And it really, I think, is something that could differentiate and really tap into, a base of voters that just want border security and they want opportunities. As I mentioned before, the economy is a disaster. There's inflation. There's other concerns. So it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. But you have to recognize that the border and immigration are not a silo issue. There are downstream effects to an open border, and that includes higher costs for rents. It includes longer waits at hospitals. It includes your children's schools being overrun by the unaccompanied alien children that have been trafficked into this country and then get a free education here. So it's not just the problem doesn't end at the border. It does touch on other aspects of life, and if candidates bring that to the forefront, I think that is something that will resonate with the American people.
I've got family members out in West Texas who work in the oil business and employ Hispanics in their business, and they say this is the worst they've seen since they got into the business and all, with the expiration of the, with the pandemic numbers and all. Talk to us about the Department of Justice suit and Governor Abbott.
Sure. Well, what you see is a federal government that is not only refusing to enforce immigration law, they are now actively targeting states who are just trying to mirror what federal law already says. That's what you see out of Texas. You saw it a little bit out of Arizona before they had a change in the governor. You see it a little bit with what Ron DeSantis has done at Florida with the most recent session. The states are just trying to do everything they possibly can because they're bearing the brunt of the open border. And it's just, if Texas can find billions of dollars of their, tax-based dollars to devote it to trying to secure the border and protect the entire country, the federal government can step up and do it too. But again, they have a desire to not do it, and they are now trying to shut down any effort at any level of government to actually secure the border.
Headline, what I would consider usually a liberal publication, the Missouri Independent, Rudy Keller and the folks, they do some good work, but there's obviously a slant. Big glaring headlines. Fentanyl epidemic is getting worse in Missouri with record numbers of overdoses. Rob, where does this fentanyl come from?
This fentanyl comes over our southern border after the cartels receive the precursor chemicals from China. And this is what happens when you have a weak when you have a weak president. We've gone weak on China. They are now sending all these precursor chemicals to the cartels. The cartels are mashing fentanyl up into other drugs. And so most of what is happening, it's not people that are buying fentanyl and dying. They think they're buying something else. A party drug, a study drug, whatever the case may be. And they don't realize that there's fentanyl in it. And it is poisoning our society at levels that is now the number one cause of death of young Americans. We are literally losing a generation of Americans because of the open border, because of our soft stance on China. And it all comes back to the southern border, which then makes every state a border state because fentanyl is one of the absolute, side effects of it.
In Boone County, last year, in the year 2022, at least 25 people just in Boone County. I don't know the numbers for Randolph, Audrain, Montauk County. Just in one of our counties, 25 people died from fentanyl overdoses. Fentanyl that comes from Mexico, comes from China. Can you tell, before we let you go, I want to get another, because a lot of times, especially, so we're in a very progressive college town, but we cover pretty much all of mid-Missouri. But in Columbia, very progressive town, and people, love rainbows and unicorns, love everybody and accept them. Would love to. If I had all the money in the world, man, I'd bring everybody in and help a brother out, help fellow human beings out. I'm not in that situation. The United States of America isn't in that situation. These border counties, not just the states, but those border counties along the border, they run out of resources to fight the problems they have, law enforcement, health care, patrolling, all of that. Even here in Missouri, can you talk for a minute, Rob, why illegal immigration affects us even here?
Well, absolutely. It affects you in multiple ways. What I think a lot of people may not realize is the people that are showing up at the border, they claim asylum, but they do not actually qualify for asylum. So they're exploiting the asylum system in order to be allowed in. And by doing so, that then gives them access to a work permit, which then means even though they are here unlawfully, they can get a job. And if they're taking a job, they're probably willing to work for less money than an American citizen is. So Americans are getting shut out of the labor market, or their wages are not going up, to keep up with inflation and other issues. You see there's a crime element of it, not everybody, but there is a crime element of it seen in the gotaways. A lot of illegal aliens go to emergency rooms, so your health visits become longer. And like I said before, the schools get overrun by the children as well.
Yeah, one of our local school districts 2 years ago, we had somebody came into the radio station personally and like, man, I need some help. My kid is losing out in his school district because there's so many kids that do not speak English. And so teachers are spending extra time with these kids who aren't speaking English. And the English-speaking kids are sitting there going, hey, man, what the heck's going on? Our guest right now on the show this morning, Rob Law, former chief of policy at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Two questions real quickly, 30 seconds if you can. Feds suing Texas to remove that Rio Grande buoy system. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, saying, I got to do something to protect my residents. Feds aren't doing it. Now the feds are suing. What do you think about the use of these buoys in the Rio Grande River?
I think it's very clever. It's creative. It shows that Governor Abbott is willing to consider all options. You know, he did shipping crates a few months ago. Now we're on to buoys. This is an act of desperation, but at least he's trying. And so I do commend the effort.
All right. Rob Lawton, that hearing tomorrow. And I'll ask you this. I know this for sure outside your area of expertise, but listener Andy, text 874-9390. He wants to know, isn't there a UFO hearing tomorrow too? Are you familiar with this, Rob?
I can't say I was tracking that one, but I do know that those have been in the news, which almost wonder if they want you to distract from the border and all these other issues. But that might very well also be going on in D.C.
I like where your head's at. Rob Law joining us this morning, former Chief of Policy, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Man, we appreciate you joining us here on Wake Up Mid-Mo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, we'll catch you next time. I think it's very important information. That's the thing. If people understand, I think, like, hey, I get it. You know, there is a human element. We all love, people and stuff like that. But there's real issues, too. And so I love that he explains, even here in Missouri, even in the heart of Missouri, whether you're in Fulton or you're in Brazito, these things, they affect all of us. Coming up, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah. What do you have for us today, Hannah?
Doing something a little different. It's a little true crime moment for a case that's just blown my mind.
Love the true crime stuff. Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Real quickly, before I get into the true crime story that I want to recap for everyone, I have posted a fun little nugget over on the Wake Up Facebook page. Our friend Chris Arps made mention of an old video.
Dang it.
Where Branden nailed himself in the face with his headphones. And because we have these lovely YouTube and Facebook cameras in the studio, we got to catch that and see his reaction to him nailing himself in the face. So that is posted over on the Wake Up Facebook page. And I would highly encourage everyone to go check it out. That's a fun little throwback for us this morning.
Especially if you've never been onto our Facebook page. It's pretty cool. You can watch the show. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch. You can watch there. How long ago? Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Just now, yeah.
And it's also a good example of why we have to mute ourselves during the commercial breaks. Because if you look closely, you can see Branden mouth a not-so-nice word.
I look like an idiot.
I'm super...
You're stunned.
And I'm super hopeful none of our family members are lip readers, because...
What did I say? Can you tell, John?
He said fudge.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's like, go check it out. It's on the Wake Up Midmo Facebook page. And people are watching. Here's one of the ways that you, like at the house in the morning, everybody's getting ready to go do their stuff. They're putting it up on the smart TV. They're putting up YouTube. And they're putting on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That way they're getting all the local news that's affecting us here in Mid-Missouri and things like that. They're getting opinions. So pop that up on your TV. Let's do What's Hot with Hannah.
Now, anyone that knows me knows I'm a little bit of a true crime nerd. I'm always listening to true crime stories after I listen to the Wake Up Mid-Missouri podcast on the 93.9 The Eagle or KWOS mobile apps. Of course, I do this after I listen to those every day. But I am one of the many people obsessed with true crime at the moment. And Stephanie, we might have briefly mentioned this with Jennifer Bukowski last week when you were filling in, but the Carly Russell case... I feel like we should just kind of do a very short deep dive into this because the audacity of people. Carly Russell admitted yesterday through her attorney that she made the whole thing up, which...
She's the gal who called, said, hey, there's a baby out here on the highway, and then all of a sudden she went missing and nobody found her. Nobody could find her until she showed up at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there's the rundown of the case.
Fake kidnapping. And also, she was like Googling, what was that movie? Taken
with Liam Neeson.
Wasn't she? And then people donated a lot of money.
Yeah.
And all sorts of people were out there like, help this poor girl. It's so
There
sad.
were several big time TikTok influencers that were sharing Carly Russell's brother's videos where he was, urging people to help look for her, keep an eye out. She was Googling things like, do you have to pay for an Amber Alert?
Wasn't this the one where she said some guy with orange hair abducted her or something?
Yeah, so when she reappeared 2 days after she was reported missing, she was telling the authorities that she had been kidnapped and she managed to escape, but they pretty quickly poked some holes in her story and, Googling things like, do you have to pay for an Amber Alert is kind of a red flag. So she was busted pretty quickly, but I thought it was interesting that she finally admitted yesterday publicly that she did make the whole story up.
Well, and I think we did briefly mention this with Jen, and I think she brought up Jussie Smollett and people who are making these false hoax claims. I'm hoping, people will get the idea that this is not a good idea for you.
And what happens a lot, and what I imagine might happen with her, I'm guessing she's got some mental stuff going on, or something's going on that said, you know what, I need some attention. I need people looking for me for 48 hours. I need people to think I'm missing. I get that, and so what's going to happen is a lot of times these they'll go back and say, hey, you owe us money. We spent a lot of money looking for you, and it was all a lie. Usually they don't.
Because it's our money.
That's right.
We spent our money looking for her.
Oh, she's got health issues. We're not going to
Extremists pass book bans to prevent them from learning our true history. Just yesterday in the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
They insult us. 2 quick speeches from Kamala. One in Florida. She traveled to Florida, had nothing on. Apparently, just boom. Florida signs into law this teaching slavery curriculum. Kamala, she goes to Florida, and I think, if somebody could double check, pretty sure she went to an HBCU. She had a captive audience. She said, us, they're hurting us. They're going after us. And people are taking exception because it's just simply not the truth. And we'll show you how. Welcome in. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
There's John Marsh.
Yes, sir.
By the way, anything to worry about? Diesel spill is right out there on 54, and it's I guess fairly a common thing, but apparently a diesel spill, Cole County. Apparently some diesel went over into the farm, Lincoln University farm. What's going on there?
Well, they've got DNR on the job. Yeah, it turned out that some diesel fuel leaked from the Cole County Public Works tank on their property and went over into one of the Lincoln University research farm, the Busby farm. Now they've got the DNR folks in there with their absorbent materials cleaning it up as best they can.
So if you're driving along 54 today and you go through that area, you might, what's going on out there, man? There's dudes in crazy suits and stuff. That's what's going on. So Kamala, she travels to Florida. Apparently, nothing doing. She can go right to Florida when she hears what Florida has done. She goes to, I believe, she went and gave a couple of speeches. One, I believe, was in front of an HBCU. CNN. Here's CNN's take on what Kamala Harris had to say about what they're doing in Florida.
Everybody involved in this says this is completely a fabricated issue. And yet, look how quickly Kamala Harris jumped on it. So the fact that this is her best moment, a fabricated matter, is pretty ridiculous in my opinion.
Let's get at
Boom. CNN. He's right. Because what do we say about Kamala? She don't talk good. She laughs when she gets nervous. She says incredibly stupid things.
And she just word salad, and it just rolls around and around and around. And actually, the words that she said made sense.
The words she said made sense. You're right. First time she said something that made sense, because guess what? Oh, black stuff, racism, slavery. I can talk about this. Never mind that I don't have the facts right.
She tried, Brandon. She tried.
She tried. But that's what the White House saw. Here's an opportunity. We're going to go in front of an HBCU audience, historically black college university audience. That's what we're going to do. And the crowd's going to get riled up because Kamala's going to use phrases like we. Ron DeSantis is going after us and hurting us and all this. And it's something she can get passionate about. And they know that the news outlets, they'll play the clip and they won't give any context. They won't. The news, MSNBC will not tell you that Kamala absolutely, as we're about to demonstrate here, absolutely, positively, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But the problem is, as you know, these CNN, MSNBC, USA Today, they play the news clip, and people that are not as smart as all of us hanging out here are going, man, racists in Florida teaching slavery is good and black people benefited, and that is not what is happening at all. How do I know this? Dr. William B. Allen. He is a chair of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. He's a member of Florida's African American History Standards Work Group, and he's one of the folks that helped to write this curriculum.
The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president, and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was categorically false. It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
It's one of the guys who wrote the curriculum, Dr. William B. Allen, former chair of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, Florida's African American History Standards Work Group. He says, I wrote this. I'm black. The vice president of the United States is lying to you. How many people has he said he's caught backlash from on this? One person. Who was it?
Kamala.
It was Kamala Harris. CNN saying the same thing. Nobody is upset about this. Except for Kamala and the White House. Hey, here's an issue we can, instead of the economy and people, let's run on race. Let's run on this. And people are going to play the clip of Kamala being passionate. Unfortunately, she is just simply lying. Just lying.
I mean, she could have had her facts wrong about all the other stuff. The problem was you couldn't tell what she was actually trying to claim. So even though they're saying this was her first factual error, I'm not sure she's been 100% on the facts before. I mean, she was right about Russia being larger than Ukraine, but on some of the other facts, I'm just not exactly sure. But yeah, you're right, Brandon. They got to talk about something besides Hunter Biden. They need to talk about something besides the border. They need to talk about something besides the economy. And I guess gas prices are going up this week again, which is a bad sign. So they're trying anything. And we talked, we spent a week lying about the submersible when we already knew what had happened. I guess tomorrow maybe we'll start talking about UFOs, but we're just trying anything right now except the current state of affairs.
I'm wondering, too, about the word salad stuff, because we always, and sometimes, listen, dude is, 98 years old? Sometimes you have to give those people, you got to give them some grace. Yeah, you're old, you're going to mess up. Who messes up their words all the time? Here on this show.
All of us.
Yeah.
But you, too.
Especially.
You included.
Alex Rodriguez, Hall of Famer. He's on ESPN. He's doing a demonstration for batting practice. And anybody can mess up their words.
So in batting practice, I'm coming at the ball from here, posture up, and right down. You can't get in trouble. It's like you're punching a little person, right? With your right hand. It's going boom, right?
Good old A-Rod.
Oh, God.
What on earth?
And he's demonstrating. He's on the TV, and he's got a bat, and he's like, and so you're swinging down at the pitch like you're hitting a little person, and then he, like, boom. He probably didn't mean...
Kind of like when Stephanie says that Miranda Lambert's coming up next. She doesn't really mean that Miranda Lambert's going to be in studio.
Or that Joe Biden wants to forgive $5.2 in the student loan. Should be $5.2 billion, which is something I do. I forget the most important part of the story sometimes.
A whole $5.
So sometimes, we mess up our words. I don't know if that was the case there.
Interesting. Although I could use some batting practice, so I'm going to look that up. Get those tips.
You're playing. How's the softball going? Stephanie, by the way, if you were to ask, I would think Brian Houseworth would be playing on an adult league softball team before Stephanie Bell would.
Steph, when is your first game?
Really?
Can we come watch?
We've already played like 3 games.
What? You've been holding out on us?
Yeah, I have been.
So
I don't want it to be captured on video.
When Drew was giving you batting lessons, did he tell you, Mom, you got to punch down like you're punching a little person? Pow!
No, he didn't, but he was trying to help me out this last weekend, and he said, hey, when you're, I've had some batting lessons in practice, and when you're loading, you don't want to bring your bat all the way back because then it adds time to like when the swing actually happens. So don't, bring it all the way back. And I said, loading. Have you heard that term before?
I have not when it comes to batting, no. And I played ball.
It's basically when you shift your weight to your back foot to get ready to follow through with your swing.
I just told him, Drew, the connotation loading infers that you're actually going to unload on something, which is not what I'm going to do, clearly.
I want to see Stephanie emulate Joe Morgan when she gets up to the plate and do the pump routine, 3 pumps with the bat.
Goodness.
Yeah, I would love to say. It just surprises me that you're playing softball. I think it's very, very cool, though. Here's something to keep in mind. So if you're looking at a map, right, a map of America, and you look at the state of Kansas, to the right of Kansas, you have the state of Missouri, legalized recreational weed. To the left of Kansas, you have the state of Colorado, one of the first states in the nation to legalize the rec stuff. So people get onto I-70, bolt out of Missouri. They make that incredibly boring drive across Kansas on I-70. Oh my God, that's mind-numbing. That really is.
You know what's almost worse? Driving across New Mexico.
Yeah.
It's also terrible.
Why would you do that? You would have
We didn't fight a border war with New Mexico, though.
But how long would you have to drive before you even got to New Mexico? I've driven to Colorado.
Yeah.
We took a family road trip to Phoenix one time.
So So people are getting on the interstate, and they're going to Colorado or they're going into Missouri from Kansas, and they're buying the weed, and then they come back. And guess who's waiting for them out there on I-70?
The cops. Well, I guess, so it's not only boring, but now it's almost like Max Creek, like you're going to get tagged for weed. So you need to be on the lookout. So if you are planning a road trip this summer, you need to have your eyes wide open, especially if you plan to take some things with you.
Yeah, if you got the gummies or whatever. So apparently Kansas Highway Patrol, and this has happened in other states, but apparently the Kansas Highway Patrol, and this is something I agreed with folks from, oh gosh, listen, I forget who it is that I usually disagree with. Anyhow, they're the ones that went after them.
The ACLU?
Thank you.
Yes.
And said, so here's what they were doing. They were pulling somebody over for a minor traffic infraction. And then what would they do after that?
They would conclude that and kind of end that interaction, and then they would start talking to you again and find reason to then search your car. And so this judge slapped them down with, I think it was like a 79-page order saying, hey, this two-step that you're doing, this Kansas two-step, it's no good. And you're basically duping people into, having a search of their car. And so the judge actually set forth 4 pages of additional rules that she wants the Highway Patrol to follow. One being affirmatively saying you have a right to refuse this search. A couple of, and I think one is you'd have to get your supervisor's permission before you ran these searches. And so I think that's still on appeal, whether those additional rules will go in, but the judge's ruling was just, this is not okay. You can, these are people's rights, and you're violating them, and we're going to impose all these additional restrictions on you.
And you do have the right to say, no, I would suggest you don't do this. I had a friend when I was working in Idaho. He's the younger guy, not real bright, and did things he shouldn't have been doing while he was driving his car. He gets pulled over one night, and the cops say, hey, can we search your car? I kid you not. This guy, his name was Tyler. He says, yeah, you can search, but just don't look under the passenger seat.
Oh, my gosh.
Don't do that. Doesn't work. 874-9390. Quick phone call.
Was he from Kansas?
You know what the Kansas two-step reminds me of, actually, John? Like Columbo, Peter Falk. Remember the character? He always played dumb, but would by the way, one more thing. That's what the Kansas two-step is like. Kansas Highway Patrol pulls you over, a speeding infraction. Okay, oh, by the way, I almost forgot. Great character. Chris is in Columbia. Wants to talk about Kamala's statements regarding the teaching of slavery in Florida. What's on your mind,
Yes.
Chris?
Well, I will throw in first that Kansas is awful, and if you talk to any truck driver, they'll explain it to you. They just stop everybody, write them up for everything, make a big deal out of everything. It's kind of crazy. No, Kamala did not originate this idea. She probably read it somewhere. Several days before she opened her mouth, somebody I know on Facebook posted this NBC News article about how, Florida passed this deal or whatever. They want to do this where they're going to teach you, slavery is benefited slaves or something.
Yep.
And again, I went and read up on it and then tried to kick back a little bit and say, no, that's not what's going on here. And I've read several of their things of what they were going to prove and the things they wanted taken out of college courses. Hey, all makes sense to me, but again, I think it was 195 mentions of the word, and one of them mentions, some of these people may have learned a trade that would benefit them later in life. Well, factual statement, whether you like it or not.
And exactly, you're right. And we heard from Dr. William B. Allen. He's the guy who helped wrote this, and he's like, nobody's upset about this except for Kamala, and Kamala, frankly, is wrong. She is lying. Chris, we appreciate you checking in from Columbia this morning. Coming up a few minutes from now, we got some texts regarding what Kamala is saying about I was going to do something
31, S&P 500 up a point.
By the way, Dow winning streak, longest in 6 years. Coming up, I'm going to be doing the Morning Bell at 8:25.
You've heard of a Bitcoin and a Dogecoin, but what's a P-coin?
A P-coin. I'm 16 right now. Sorry. We'll find.
She said P.
Hey, at least I own it. I'm still 16 sometimes.
I might be the only person to know. Have you heard of this before?
No.
I feel like I have been left out.
I know nothing about it, but I'm anxious to get John's reaction.
Like you on the P-coin.
On the P-coin. Steph's going to be talking. Hey, do us a favor if your kids are still in bed because it's summer vacation. And by George, when I was on summer vacation in school, I was still sleeping at 7:55 in the morning. But wake up your 16-year-old. Say, hey, that's Stephanie Bell on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. She's gonna be talking about P-coins.
You're in for a treat.
Oh, you win. All right. So Kamala Harris going and lying. You wouldn't know it because nobody is correcting her when she was talking about this slavery curriculum being taught in Florida. One of the guys who wrote it, Dr. William B. Allen, former chair of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, a member of Florida's African American History Standards Work Group. Here's his response.
The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president, and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was.
He's very polite, too. He doesn't call her a liar. He doesn't call her a bald-faced liar.
He's going to let you do that.
It was an error. It was just an error. This dude wrote this thing, and people are responding via text, 874-9390.
Yeah, Paula points out she's fact-checking him and saying, no, actually, Kamala wasn't the only one who criticized you. The View was also criticizing you.
So, and I think this is why when people talk about, and the phrase you hear a lot, Rush Limbaugh made it famous, mainstream media, but we talk about these national news outlets and how they're complicit with the lies that are told by Democrats usually. MSNBC, NBC, ABC was the only one. ABC aired some of this conversation with Dr. William B. Allen. ABC right now, as far as they're the only ones that have said, yeah, maybe what the vice president of the United States is telling you, she's not being genuine. She is lying to the American people. She's an elected official. She's an elected servant to the people. And she lies to the very people that put her into office. She's lying. And I don't know who I blame more. Her, Democrats, or the national news outlets that don't say, hey, actually, she's got it completely wrong, whether it's this issue or anything else. And the news outlets, they simply just, they won't do it. And that's why that stuff matters. So when you hear phrases like mainstream media, that's why it matters. Nobody, with maybe the exception of ABC this morning and Wake Up Mid-Missouri, nobody's
And over and over.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
Hunter and Joe, they're done. I feel it. This time, for real, we're getting this close. I'm sure the walls are closing in.
We could turn this into a drinking game.
Yeah? Oh, I'm all on board. But I want to start here. A presidential candidate involved in a car accident?
Maybe it was a fender bender. I don't know. I got kind of duped because it was breaking news. Ron DeSantis.
Stephanie was out in the break room. She goes, "Did you see the breaking news?"
DeSantis in a car accident. You see the breaking news, and she's yelling to everybody in the station. DeSantis
I was
has been
not.
in the car. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
But it's scary. Anyway, he's uninjured, and his team is uninjured. They were on their way to Chattanooga.
And we may not be able to say the same about his campaign, being unarmed and uninjured. Well, and I like DeSantis. I know. Welcome into the show. There's John Marsh.
Good morning.
Steffi Bell.
Good morning.
We've reached out to her husband to find out which softball team she plays on in Ashland. So we can invite folks out. Holy cow, there were 37,000 people at the Ashland recreational ball fields this weekend. What was going on?
It's quite the ordeal. It's really nice. And I will say the city invested in some money, redid the fields, and this is the first year they've allowed it to or that it's been able to go on. And there are quite a even the mayor was out, and they've got like a hot dog stand, and you can get a hot dog and you can sit and watch people play. It's really quite a nice little thing they've got going. The YMCA put the league together. So, you know, when you invest money, you know, having to help or invest money through the city or tax dollars, it's nice to see it being put to good use for the community. That's for sure.
What's your batting average?
Oh, man, it's not good.
Her batting average is ranch dressing and puppies and other things that she doesn't like. See, that's Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you. Good. I agree with Stephanie about Ashland. They're also investing in their football field and the voter-approved bond issue, but growing community.
I don't have any updates on that, but you can see it from the park, and yes. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there is no there's gravel, big mounds of dirt, and I haven't heard if it's on time or not. The football season's coming up pretty quickly, so
yeah, about a month. It really is, but yeah, that was a voter-approved bond issue that had been in 2022. It was about over a year ago.
And I mean this when I say this. Ashland is so important to, in my opinion, the overall development of mid-Missouri. Number one, it's geographically situated right smack dab between our capital city and the biggest city in mid-Missouri and the fourth largest city in all of Missouri, which is Columbia. And by the way, the sports stuff, even if you're not a parent or grandparent, you don't have kids involved in sports, high school and these local ball tournaments, they bring a bunch of money into your communities. And
just not when Brandon shows up.
It's not when I show up. And Ashland ideally situated, and you've got mostly good leadership there.
But Ashland redid their baseball field quite a bit ago, 5 years ago or something, really nice. And I will say I had the wrong impression when I first moved there and there was a football game, and I said, I'm just going to show up like 15 minutes early. I could not get a seat on the bleachers, so they are adding bleachers and other things because it's definitely outgrown the football stadium.
Yes. By the way, I still owe the Randolph County School District some money because I went into a high school football game and I was shocked. It's been 5 years almost, Hannah.
A couple
4 or 5 years ago, and I'm like, pay. So I said, well, I'm with the press. And they said, okay, come in.
Oh, that is the worst.
Yeah,
so my kids, no, you are the worst. But my kids played basketball like 8 and 11 years old, and they charge the parents to come watch at an elementary school gym. Oh, we pay, and grandma and grandpa. Yeah, we had to pay all season for both kids everybody to watch the games this year. And I'm thinking, huh? Yeah. Like to go to my own school gym, I have to pay a couple dollars. I think it's to support the refs, which, okay. But what?
Maybe this is a generational thing because I have never known anything other than charging admission.
Yeah, you don't charge admission to
for
parents
8-year-olds?
Yeah, you don't do that.
I don't remember parents being charged either. I don't.
Marsh, what about you?
I got a press pass.
I'm sorry. I should. Well, I'm sorry, Drew. Grandma and Grandpa can't come to your game. It's
a little short this month.
I mean, I grew up playing Little League sports, and you always have to pay to get in.
Yeah, that's really
that's rude.
That's producer Hannah, and joining us Sam is in Columbia with a wedding idea for Hannah, who's getting married coming up. It'll be the halftime of the Black Friday Mizzou Arkansas football game right there at the 50-yard line. Sam, what's your wedding idea for Hannah?
Well, I don't know if you knew it, but Hannah's getting married.
Really? Yeah, really. You seen the ring on her finger on our YouTube channel?
Well, have you seen the billboards on I-70?
Not yet. Tell us.
Okay, take a drive on the Boonville side of the Missouri River, and there's like three, one right after the other.
Really?
Oh, wow.
So can you? Yeah. Do we need to go look? Or is there anything you can tell us that will satiate our curiosity?
Well, one thing is I went on, obviously, to get tickets to the Mizzou-Arkansas game in order to see the wedding. And you realize the Black Friday Mizzou-Arkansas game's in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Yes.
I do now.
I'm wondering how much are cotton candy grapes in Fayetteville? Does anybody check the futures on that?
Wow. Sam is on it this morning.
I'll have to look into that one.
Sam, we appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 874-9390. It's in the
Get a free diamond in every bunch of them if you get them in Arkansas.
Hannah spent like $87 on what do they call cotton candy grapes the other day? Apparently.
You should just get the cotton candy.
But the caller is correct. The game is in Fayetteville that day, which is interesting. It is a 3:00 kickoff too.
Well, you know, we wanted
normally at 1:30.
We wanted a destination wedding, and we couldn't afford it, so we chose Fayetteville, Arkansas.
And if you
suey pig.
All right, Wall's closing in on Hunter Biden. So you know the whole thing with, and this is really, and I really do believe this now. And here's been the thing: Fox is the only one that's been on this. Now you're starting to see other news outlets slowly pick up on the work that Fox News has been doing. But apparently, Hunter Biden and his dad were taking money from countries like China. The sitting president of the United States is accused, and there's more and more evidence that is pointing a direct line to the guy that people elected to be the president of the United States. More and more evidence shows that, yes, he knew exactly what his son was doing. And when he was vice president, when Joe was vice president, he was using the Biden name to make money from countries that want to hurt us. So July 30th, 2017, Hunter Biden apparently telling a Chinese business leader, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment has not been fulfilled." And he said, "If I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, of course, would have been Joe Biden, and every person he knows, and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction." So that's what he is alleged to have said, threatening this Chinese business leader with the Biden name unless the guy who is now president of the United States was paid $5 million. Okay. And Joe has said numerous times, never had any business dealings with my kid. Now, here's where it starts to get really interesting. There is a picture of Hunter Biden in his dad's Corvette, incidentally. And he's got a couple of friends in the car with him. Hookers. Friends. He paid for some friends. He got
special
some
friends.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they've got the picture blurred. You can't tell if they're special friends or just,
You can still see their clothing
So
or lack thereof.
That's right. So here's what I will say is the only thing they blacked out were the faces. They didn't black out. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can...
You know what it reminds me of? Brandon, do you
That's
remember?
a shirt that I have in my closet, for sure. It looks like a bikini top with missing pieces. You can tell who these people are.
Brandon, do you remember when you volunteered at Hooters and you took a really great photo with the dirty half dozen?
Yes.
The crop job you did on it? That's what it reminds me of.
What did I do?
You posted the photo to Facebook and then almost immediately texted me like, should I have done that?
Oh, yeah. So there's a group, Dirty Half Dozen, and it's an incredible group of veterans here in mid-Missouri. They do a lot of work with the Central Missouri Honor Flight, and they go out to lunch every month, and once in a while they invite me, and they go to Hooters. And I'm like, this is cool, man. I'm hanging out with these veterans, and I go several times a year, and I posted a picture on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page. I'm hanging out with some veterans, but it was at Hooters.
And it was the backside of all the Hooters girls.
I don't remember who took the picture. But then I posted it, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Anyhow.
And then you cropped it.
I don't remember the crop job.
Huh.
So, Hunter, there's a picture of Hunter sitting in his dad's Corvette with a couple of hookers. All right? Now, here's the key. The picture is from July the 30th, 2017. The same day that Hunter Biden, with his Chinese business leader, is alleged to have said, I'm sitting here with my dad. You need to give us $5 million or else. Hunter Biden was at his dad's house that day. Went into the Corvette, took out all the boxes of classified documents. And then he asked his dad, hey, Dad, can I use the vet? And his dad must have given an answer kind of like this.
Like, you can use it for the gram. You can take some photos with your friends in it, but you can't have the keys.
And you're not driving it.
Yeah.
So it's a picture of Hunter Biden sitting in a Corvette in the driveway with these hookers.
He said, but make sure to take out the confidential documents and stash those in the garage first.
And don't forget the parking brake.
And my Geritol.
So Joe wouldn't even let his own kid drive this car, man. So it's just some really crazy pictures. But that is new, and I think that's huge because, and by the way, Karine Jean-Pierre has said this numerous times when asked about the business dealings. Did Joe know?
I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
So that's not, he didn't know. That's he wasn't in business with the son. And so my ears didn't perk up necessarily about the car photo, although I'm sure you really like the car photo.
Well,
with the picture of the hookers.
He's a car guy.
But yeah, you read the article for the car, right?
Look at the headlights.
Let's just say that Branden also noticed the cutouts in the special friends clothes.
Yes. All right. But my ears perked up when I heard that Devin Archer is going to be testifying. And, and because people always go down for lying. And Joe Biden himself said, I didn't know anything about it. I never talked to him about it. I have no idea what my son's doing. I never hang out with him. I never let him drive my car. I don't know what else he said. I don't have any classified documents. So he said all this stuff. And apparently Archer is going to testify. No, there were in-person and phone meetings in which the big guy actually participated. And if that is the case, that is where my ears perked up and I thought, maybe there's something to what Branden's been saying all along.
The walls are closing in. Devin Archer on the Burisma board with Hunter Biden. He is going to be testifying tomorrow. Mayorkas is testifying. There's a UFO hearing tomorrow. A lot of things going on. And we are getting ready for the morning bell. Business news, a little twist, only Stephanie Bell. News with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
The Dow and S&P futures are just slightly down. NASDAQ futures bumped up a little bit in the green before the market opens. Now, we've heard of Dogecoin and Bitcoin and all of the coins, but there's a coin you might not have heard of.
You ready, John?
The P coin.
All together now.
And
it's an
this
abbreviation for something, isn't it?
No, it's PEE, the P coin.
Okay.
And it's
John tried to give it the benefit.
I tried.
It's the P coin. P, you know.
You earn it for eating peas. No, you have to use it. Or it's the currency that you need to be able to have to use the app called Run P. Have you ever heard of the app Run P?
No.
I have.
Where has this app been all my life? Because it could be really useful. And so with everyone going to the box office, you need to know about this app. You can download it on your phone. And if you're worried, because some people did the Barbenheimer this last week, and that's 5 hours of movies. You got your big bucket o' Coke, all your popcorn, and you're thinking, I really got to go pee.
That's right.
But I don't want to miss something important.
3-hour movie, Coke, popcorn. You might have to go to the ladies' room.
So Run P, you open the app, and when the movie, you pick what movie you're in, and you start a timer when the movie starts, and people have come together and decided, like, you can go pee right now and you're not going to miss anything really important. And the phone vibrates and is like, go now. And it will tell you exactly, depending on what movie you're watching, when is an okay time to go pee. And there's kind of like a free version, or you can get infinity level P coins, which allow you to use it as much as you want. But you can also like subscribe for a certain number of P coins, I guess, depending on how many movies you need to go and how many times you need to go pee. But there is, so, for your business news, you think your idea is kind of stupid. But you just, it's a whole business, and it has a lot of employees, and they have a subscription model, and you might think, you know what problem I'm going to solve today? What time people need to go pee in the movies.
If they merge with Dogecoin, they could be dog pee coin.
Well, and if you recall, there was this whole, there are like Reddit threads and TikToks and all of this. There's a huge discussion. I don't know how I got down this rabbit hole on social media about when was the appropriate time to go pee during the Taylor Swift concert, because it was like 4 hours long. And everyone's like, what if I miss my favorite song? Now, these people know exactly what song she's singing in exactly what order. And there was a big debate between all the Swifties of which song. Should you miss the 10-minute version of whatever? I'm going to get roasted from the Taylor Swift people.
Boo!
But so, my question is there one for concerts? Because I would be more into that. Like, when can I go pee during the concert and I'm not going to miss, like, one of the really good songs?
Before or after? There's your app, Steph.
No.
It depends.
Brandon, don't Brandon, don't pretend like you can make it all the way through a 4-hour concert.
And if you don't think those Swifties didn't wear Depends to the concert so they wouldn't have to go pee, I'm sure there were.
I have heard of that.
I have heard of that too, actually. For real. And that's the Morning Bell. There's your business.
challenged, and it's sad. And, you know, others are pulling the strings in every way. But anything we touch almost is becoming toxic, whether it be Afghanistan, the border, all the different things, energy, on and on and on, inflation, just one thing right after another, whether it be crime or woke in schools or, I mean, it is everything we touch turns to do.
I like that. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice taking a page out of the Stephanie Bell playbook. Hey, we've talked P this morning. Let's talk do now. That's West Virginia Governor Jim Justice. Everything Joe Biden touches turns to do. Eventually, he gets, I'm not playing it all. I don't have time, Jim. I got to move forward. We got other stuff we got to do here. But eventually, he was getting to, he is endorsing Donald Trump, the GOP side of the race. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Mo. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
It's John Marsh.
Yep.
There's producer Hannah.
Howdy.
My name is Branden Rathert. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. When I get in, Missouri is home to the Midwest's first blank. But want to go back to the morning bell. We do this every morning, 8:25, business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. We were talking about P-Coins, an interesting concept. It's an app. You go to a movie and you're like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to watch Barbie for the third time, and it's a pretty long movie, but I'm going to have to pee, and apparently this app can help you with that.
Yeah, you pick your movie, and you start the timer when the movie starts, and then somebody like the movie people / people who work for the company have decided, here's a 4-minute window or 3-minute window when you can get up and pee and not miss anything important. And so your phone vibrates and is like, go now. When it's time, an okay time to take a pee break. And I think that's ingenious. If you've got an idea and you're like, maybe this is a stupid idea, there is an app that tells you when to go pee during movies.
Sandy says, I don't think that I would get that app, but there are some folks that go, yeah, this is something I would use.
Yeah, you don't want to think of like those really big moments in movies. You're like, you go, it's the thing, and you have to pee, and you're like, do I suffer or do I potentially miss something? So getting someone else's check off that says, oh, that's cool. But I think they need it for concerts. That's my thing is, I'm not obsessive enough to check every set list. In some concerts, there's fun spoken word moments or little things that happen. And I would love an app that told me now's an okay time during the concert to run and go pee.
Rob says intermissions need to make a comeback.
That's true.
Yeah. Remember, Hannah, have you ever been to a movie where there's an intermission?
Not a movie, but I've been to plays and stuff.
Yeah, they do it at plays. Why not do it at movies? Heck, I think we should take an intermission here during the show. About 7:30, Brian, what do you say? We go back, take a smoke break, light up a Marlboro Red, and maybe have a shot of whiskey. And
that's what they do in the hockey game. There you go. Between periods.
874-9390. 874-9390. Also off the text, Jeff, who is in Jefferson City, says, hey, Hannah, saw cotton candy grapes in Jefferson City for 99 cents a pound.
I love how that has become a thing. We got a message from a Wake Up family member on the KWOS Facebook page the other day who gave me another source to go look at for cotton candy grapes. Like, it's become a thing.
And then Whaley's to Walgreens. Jim talking about that is kind of a big deal, John.
It's a real big deal. I know Brian was over there standing in line to get a Coke at the Whaley's soda fountain. But correct me if I'm wrong. This is it.
This is
last day.
It's a bigger story. I don't think Columbia people realize how big this is in Jefferson City. It is a big deal to the point where the mayor of Jefferson City, Ron Fitzwater, put out, I would say, a scathing Facebook post, basically saying, people, it's up to you to support independent pharmacies. But he talked about what they've done to these insurance companies to not giving them reimbursements and stuff. A lot of sadness at that, and we ran out of ice. They had no ice left for the soda machine. So
disclosure, Ron Fitzwater is the lobbyist for the Pharmacy Association.
He is, but he represents the big boys too.
And also,
he does,
and that's interesting.
You're right. But he does.
As mayor, in effect, doesn't he represent small local businesses too?
Yes,
even though he represents the pharmacy industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his scathing may be strong, but I would view it as that. But again, he was basically saying that there's this, and Whaley said the same thing about this reimbursement rate. but just a lot of sadness. It's a really big deal in Jefferson City.
Well, and I think so many people, it's in an interesting location, and we all used to go to Simonson, the 9th grade center. So, for those of us who had parents who worked for the state or in downtown Jeff, it was, you got to walk into downtown after you went to Simonson, and you would stop at Whaley's Easton and get your Coke if you were, could. And it was always a treat. And so, I mean, my parents talked about it growing up. I mean, it's 80 years. It's been around forever. So, I think that's hard. The other thing that I think about in losing Whaley's is, you saw the vehicles all around everywhere. And so they would do local delivery. And I think that's really important. The other thing on the west side that I know that I utilized quite a bit is they had significant support for mothers and for breastfeeding mothers.
Mommy and me, didn't they?
Exactly. And so when there's not a lot of places for you to go get educated on that kind of stuff. I know the hospitals do a good job, but if you're really struggling, it was one resource for moms in Jefferson City that I hope someone else is going to step up and take over.
And I think the cool thing about Whaley's, like, you could say, hey, you want to go meet at a fast food restaurant and get a Coke. That's not something to do. But you could go to Whaley's and have a Coke, and you were doing something.
Yeah.
You weren't just sitting in a little 2-seat booth at a fast food restaurant.
Right. And you could sit at the stool at the bar, but Brandon doesn't want to talk about the mommy and me stuff, but like, here's the type of service. I mean, literally, I had a baby. My breast pump had been sitting for like, Brandon's like, I don't want to talk about this, but it had been sitting for a couple of years. And I'm like, is this still good or not? I need to be ready or whatever. And I actually took it to their West Side spot, and they had like something that they could test the breast pump with to make sure it was still like, I don't know where you do that now, like how you do that. Yeah. And so these are the types of services. And when you know people and you can develop a relationship and call people when you have local people when you have a problem. And so I had called their breastfeeding educator and said, I've got this old pump. Do I need to buy a new one? And they said, oh, actually, if you bring it in, we'll test it, make sure it's working good for you. And then they informed me, oh, did you know since you last had a baby, insurance covers a pump. So guess what? If you do need a new one, you can get it paid for. I mean, these are the things as somebody who's educated, that really who I, have resources to find out, had no idea, and really relied on that local business to help me through a time where I really needed some help.
That's exactly right. And the last thing I'd say, you're spot on about that. And that was a big deal on the west side. But Whaley's was involved in virtually every fundraiser, whether it was the American Heart Association, the Heart Ball, the Heart Walk, the Alzheimer's Walk that I was at for my mother. They sponsored a lot of that. You're right, those delivery drivers, because of the homebound people that needed them. And they've sold to Walgreens. No offense to Walgreens, but what I heard in that store the last week was not so positive about Walgreens from customers. They're not mad at Walgreens. It's not going to be the same. They're
going to miss Whaley's.
They want Whaley's. That's what they want. And these were young people, not all old. They were young people. They were white. They were African American. They were Hispanic. It was a real cross section of the community.
Where you might lose something where Stephanie, when she was nursing, had the ability to go and, hey, I know these people. I can go in. Can you help me with this breast pump thing? It's not something you'd probably get from a national retailer. So a lot of sadness about that. All right.
Give some props to Tolson Drug in Jefferson City. They're sort of a downtown Jefferson City kind of neighborhood pharmacy, and they put out some advertising to say that, hey, we're here for you, and switch your prescriptions over here, and we have free delivery and all that. So I'd say give them some credit for trying to be a little proactive.
I'm there a lot.
And Roberts is there too.
And for people working in downtown Jeff, a lot of, it's luckily in Ashland, we've got Kilgore's, which is nice, but they do close a bit early. So if I'm working late, it's easier for me working downtown to pop into Tolson's to pick up my prescription, because I can't be, jetting all over town. I think it's good on them to say that they're out there, but I think Ron Fitzwater's right. It's on us if we want to keep these folks in business to make sure we're visiting them.
And you'll hear a lot on the show. If you've listened to Wake Up Mid-Missouri for any amount of time, we talk about supporting local businesses. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about.
That's right.
This is what we mean, because we always talk, they're bringing a big factory, we'll hire 2,000 people. That's great, but the backbone, Missouri economy, small local businesses, especially here in mid-Missouri. And again, it's not just supporting them financially, and they hire people that live here, and they pay taxes to the community and spend money here. And
also shout out to my friends at Tolson's who are Wake Up family members who talk to me about the show, and they're involved and they want to know about local news.
That's right,
and it matters to them just as much as they matter to us.
And that's why, in my opinion, shopping locally and buying locally as much as you can. And I'm willing to pay a little bit more, and I'm not a dude who's flush with cash or anything like that, but I'm willing to pay more to support the local folks. Missouri.
Spot on.
Home to the Midwest's first blank pizza vending machine. 24 hours a day, you go up to like this vending machine. You put I know that's, and if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Stephanie's facial reaction, that's kind of my initial take.
Is it hot?
Yeah, so this is according to KRCG. This is at Missouri Valley College. It's called Lots of Pizza and Cookies. And this just went in just this past Feel Good Friday. Put it in, and here's how it works. You go in, and this machine has like 90 pizzas in it in a freezer. It has stores up to 96 pizzas in a refrigerator. You go up to the vending machine. You put in your debit card. You put in the money. You make your selection, and apparently it's all automated. Pizza comes out of the fridge. It's a 12-inch pizza. Goes into one of two different stone-bottom ovens. It fires up close to 700 degrees, and then within a matter of minutes, it puts it back into that box, and you take it out of the vending machine.
I'm not sure.
Very generational today. Because
it sounds like a college campus thing for sure.
Right?
Yes.
But is that something I would have reservations about buying some food from a vending machine?
You get the whole pizza?
Yeah. Pizza.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen in a vending machine? That's what, because airports have gotten really, well, not like that. Have you seen that in a vending machine? Airports have gotten really weird where they do like, I know, I like the ones that have like chargers, like Apple chargers, because that's the thing that like when I'm traveling, I'm like, oh dang, I need another phone charger or something. But but lately I've seen like makeup and some other. My favorite, Vegas has the ones that are just all champagne. I kind of like that one.
Memorial Union on Mizzou's campus, they have a big vending machine full of school supplies. So, like, if you need a pencil or a calculator, things like that, it came in handy a couple times.
John Sue wants to know, do you remember Hall's Pharmacy by West School?
Sure.
Yeah, there's your answer. He says, sure. Sue, we appreciate you listening. 874-9390. 874 9390. Coming up, we'll do some leftovers. Airbnb in one mid-Missouri town. What's the future?
Enjoy.
All right, some things we did not get to. News regarding Joe Biden. We're just learning of this.
Apparently, people in the White House are on Team Stephanie and not so pleased with the Biden's dogs, who apparently have bit people how many times?
7 people in 4 months.
Oh, man.
That is a lot.
That's a prodigious track record for a German Shepherd.
Didn't they already get rid of one of the dogs for biting or attacking? I thought they did.
Well, and they're not young dogs. Like, they're not puppies. They should know better.
They're snapping at people. All right, Marsh, what do you got for leftovers?
Well, no snapping shepherds, but the defending Super Bowl champs Chiefs held their first full squad workout at training camp on Sunday without All-Pro defensive tackle Chris Jones. Final year of his 4-year, $80 million deal. Will he stay or will he go?
Yeah, 15 sacks last season. Pretty key player, but holding out last year of his contract. Steph, what do you got for leftovers?
Oh, Columbia is Columbia-ing.
Columbia-ing it.
They are proposing these Airbnb restrictions. It's really making me mad. I thought I would be mad, but the actual restrictions are making me even more mad. Apparently, it's already illegal to rent residential property in Columbia. They just haven't been enforcing it. But these new restrictions, they're saying Airbnbs would be limited to districts that are zoned residential. You'd have to apply for a license.
Nope.
From the city. You would only be allowed to have one, so you couldn't have 2 Airbnbs, which is just silly.
Nope.
And then you would only be able to rent your property for a maximum of 120 days. If it's not your primary residence, not only would you need a license, you would have to go to planning and zoning to get a conditional use permit.
Nope.
I mean, what on earth are they thinking about?
It's my house.
I was going to say,
Jefferson City go through some of this a while back?
And thank goodness, I think people rose up and said, no way.
I was going to say, I'm not a homeowner, but I would think, if I pay my mortgage and I pay my property taxes and all those fun things, then I should be allowed to do whatever I want to with my own house.
And think about the cities that are growing and thriving, like Nashville, which are cities full of Airbnbs. Like, this is ridiculous. Think about all the people who come in town for like a Mizzou game or something. And that's what one of the folks cited in this article said, hey, we've got kids going here. We bought a house. We come here, to visit a lot of times during the year. So we wanted a place that was kind of ours. But when we're not here, we rent it out. Like, that makes perfect sense. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not going to tell me what to do with my house. Now, I will say that I start to wonder, what if you live next to somebody who has an Airbnb and they're doing a bunch of this crazy stuff?
It's not crazy. It's just normal people needing a place to stay that have a lot of money, because Airbnb is not cheap.
We stayed at an Airbnb a couple years ago, and in the Airbnb listing, it actually warned us that the neighbors are cranky about the fact that there's an Airbnb in the neighborhood. And so we had to park in really specific spots, and we couldn't do X, Y, and Z because the neighbors would call the cops every single time.
And it's a risk whether you have Airbnb or not. I had a neighbor once, and it was like a grandma. She left for the summer, teenage, college-age kid came to watch the house. And, there was some shenanigans going on.
What could possibly go wrong?
And that didn't have anything to do with Airbnb, right? I mean, people are going to be people, but it has nothing to do with Airbnb. It has to do with your individual rights, your property rights. And, for the whole thing, you can only have one. For some people, it only makes, economies of scale. It makes sense to have multiple to make these things work. This is ridiculous.
The other thing that's odd is they're saying, hey, we don't want so many Airbnbs because we have an affordable housing crisis in Columbia. As a homeowner, that's not my problem. Not my problem. And to parse this out from that government aspect, think about, there are elected servants that are making these decisions. You have elected servants going, how can we control what you do with your house? How can we make money off of what you're doing? So separate that from the government. Think about the people that sit on the city council in Columbia. That's people that are thinking, this is a good idea. I'm going to tell you what you do with your property. I want to see how we can get some of your money.
Yeah, all those licensing